People think cash is king, but in the modern system, cash is the slowest tool, the weakest position, and the least scalable form of money. The system rewards credit far more than it rewards cash, and once you understand why, the entire game looks different. Most people were raised to avoid debt, fear credit, and trust cash. They were told credit is dangerous. They were taught that the responsible path is to save cash, spend cash, and never owe anyone anything. But the system wasn't built around cash. It was built around credit. Cash moves slowly. Credit moves the world. Cash is limited to what you have. Credit expands what you can control. Cash waits. Credit accelerates. This doesn't mean cash is useless. It means cash alone can't compete with what credit can do. Cash works in a personal system. Credit works in an economic system. The economic system is what determines wealth. Most people never question why banks, corporations, and governments depend on credit instead of savings. They never ask why the wealthiest people use credit constantly, even when they have the cash to pay for everything. They never ask why billionaires borrow hundreds of millions instead of spending their own money. It's because credit creates leverage, and leverage creates power. Here's the truth. The system doesn't teach openly. People who rely on cash stay limited. People who understand credit stay in motion. Cash forces you to wait until you can afford something. Credit lets you control it now, grow with it now, benefit from it now. Cash is defensive. Credit is strategic. Cash preserves. Credit multiplies. When you look at every major institution, you'll see the same pattern. Corporations borrow to scale. Investors borrow to buy assets. Governments borrow to operate. Banks create credit out of thin air and lend it at interest. If cash were truly king, none of these systems would function. Credit is more powerful than cash because the system rewards the ability to control resources, not just the ability to pay for them. Credit buys time. Credit buys opportunity. Credit buys scale. Cash rarely does. Most people misunderstand credit because they were only exposed to the consumer version of it. They see credit cards, personal loans, and interest charges. They see the trap. They see the downside. And yes, consumer credit is a trap when you use it to buy liabilities. But credit becomes leverage when you use it to acquire assets, systems, and tools that generate more value than the credit costs. The wealthy don't fear credit because they understand its purpose. Credit is a tool for control, not a punishment for spending. Cash disappears when you use it. Credit expands your reach when you use it correctly. Cash dies once it's spent. Credit recycles itself through opportunity. Most people think they need more cash, but what they really need is the ability to use credit strategically. Credit lets you move sooner. Cash forces you to wait. And in a system where speed matters, waiting is expensive. The system rewards those who act, not those who wait until everything is perfect. Credit gives you the ability to act. But here's the part most people overlook. Credit is more than money. Credit is trust. Credit is access. Credit is permission. Credit is infrastructure. You don't rise in the system by saving. You rise in the system by being trusted with more control. The system measures that trust through credit. Your credit score tells the system how safe you are. Your credit limits tell the system how much leverage you can access. Your debt-to-income tells the system how much risk you can hold. Your payment history tells the system how reliable you are. Cash doesn't communicate any of that. Credit does. Cash is invisible to the system. Credit is how the system evaluates you. Cash doesn't build a track record. Credit does. Cash doesn't grow based on trust. Credit grows based on trust. This is why people with cash and no credit feel stuck, while people with credit and limited cash can still move, grow, and expand. Credit opens doors cash can't. It lets you leverage assets you don't fully own. It lets you access resources before you have them. It lets you scale faster than your income would allow on its own. The system rewards acceleration, not patience. It rewards scale, not savings. It rewards leverage, not effort. And credit is leverage, but there's a deeper layer. Credit lets you separate opportunity from income. Cash forces you to tie them together. Credit gives you flexibility. Cash limits you to affordability. When you rely on cash alone, everything takes longer. Starting a business takes longer. Building an asset takes longer. Buying property takes longer. Scaling anything takes longer. And in a system that moves fast, being slow is more expensive than being wrong. The system doesn't care how much cash you have. It cares about how much you can control. Credit is control. People avoid credit out of fear, but the system isn't afraid of credit. The system is built on credit. Once you understand that, you stop seeing credit as danger and start seeing it as structure. Cash is the tool you use for stability. Credit is the tool you use for growth. Cash keeps you safe. Credit moves you forward. Cash is the past. Credit is the present. Leverage is the future. And the people who combine cash discipline with credit strategy are the ones who move the fastest inside the system. This isn't about reckless spending. It's about understanding how the system actually works. The system rewards leverage. It rewards speed. It rewards control. And credit gives you all three. If this made sense, subscribe. At System Exposed, we don't hype you. We explain the truth the system never teaches. Once you see how it really works, you never see money the same way again.